Well, enough talk. Time for some action now. And what I want to do is go out and explore Microsoft Power Apps. And we're going to do so by going and take a look at the admin center that we have in Power Apps. And also, we're going to take a look at some of the capabilities that we have and some of the options that we have for creating a Power App through the graphical user interface. So I like to start with a baseline. So we're in the Office 365 Admin Center. We're going to expand on the Admin Centers and scroll down. And we're going to see here we have an admin center just for Power Apps. We're going to click on that to access that. And it's going to look pretty similar to what we saw with Flow. We have options here. We have DLP, data loss prevention policies. And under tenant, we have user licenses, where we can download a list of active user licenses. And we have quotas, where we can download all of the data for a tenant to a CSV file. And it gives us information here about the 50,000 total Flow runs that we could click on here. So very, very similar to what we saw with the admin center for Flow. Let's go to our waffle/app launcher, and we'll go to all apps, and we'll scroll down, and we'll open up Power Apps. And we'll come to the interface for Power Apps inside of here. And we land on the home page first. You're going to see we have an option here to create apps that connect to your data and work across the web and mobile. And there's an option to learn about Power Apps here. Here's my default environment I was telling you about, the tenant name with the default on the end of it. That's going to be my default environment that's created for me when we are using Power Apps. If I scroll down here, we've got a few different templates to start with, but we can click on all templates down here on the right, and we have other options. We have a category called all and another one called office. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and just give an idea of some of the different ones that we have in here. Help desk, leave request, out of office, book a room, shout outs, contacts, company pulse. So we have these templates out of the box for us that are available under Office as well as under All. So that's where we can start with. Let me go back to home here, because also on the home page, we can come down here, we see we have recent apps and then shared with me. So what I'll do is I'll click on all apps, and when we do that, notice it brings me on the left-hand side down to the apps category. And notice we have recent apps, we have shared with me apps, apps that I can edit, and then we have a category for organization apps. Notice to the top, I can create an app using Canvas or model driven. I can import a package in preview mode at this point, and I can access Microsoft Dynamics 365. Notice also we have the learn option like we did in Flow. Learn how to create apps, and we can get started with a tour in here. I also have a create option over here on the left-hand side. And we have a Canvas app from blank, model driven app from blank. We have start from data, Power Apps training for Office, Power Apps training, the help desk, service desk, fundraiser, asset checkout, out of office, cost estimator, to do, several different options that we have out of the box that we can use to work with and start creating our own apps. And we saw most of these when we were looking at the templates earlier on. And similar to the Flow, we have a data section where we have entities, we have connections, we have custom connectors, and we have gateways. So let me just click on these. Let's click on connections here. And notice for connections, we have different options. We have approvals, notifications, MSN Weather. That's an app that we looked at in the Flow module. And we also have Outlook and Office 365 users. Custom connectors, if I click on this as an example here, you can see you can create a custom connector to connect to any existing REST API as long as that API supports at least one of the 10 plus authentication mechanisms and uses JSON. And you can learn more about custom connectors. So the thing I've noticed, and I hope you have as well, with Flow and Power Apps, there's tons of online or on-demand help that's available as you're working with these apps. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse data. And then I'll notice we have business logic, and guess where that points us? That points us back to the flows. And then we have solutions here as well. And when I start working with solutions, I can create a new environment. Remember, we are working in our default environment here, but notice in here we can create a new environment. So this is how I work with the apps that I have out of the box. And notice I can filter the apps that I see here. So let's go ahead and click on create an app, and we'll go to model driven. And it's going to give me some information, being this is the first time I've come in here. It says to work with apps, you need a database. It looks like you don't have permissions to create one. So try a different environment or create a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new environment here. And it's going to ask for an environment name. I'm going to call it demo. And then regions, United States. Environment type is trial. I can go into production. And we want to create a trial environment, so we have something other than the default. So I'll click create environment. Then it's asking if I want to create a database for collecting, storing, and sharing data within this environment. So I'll go ahead and click Create Database. My currency here is going to be USD. My language will be English. Include sample apps and data. I'll go ahead and click Create a Database. And now notice my environment has switched to demo environment from the default environment. So now I can start working in here, and being it's a trial environment, I don't have to worry about messing up anything because I'm not working in production. So we can work in a demo environment to create our apps as we're learning about Power Apps. So in this module, we get to explore more about Power Apps and understand what Power Apps are all about with a fairly detailed explanation. We see how tightly they integrate with Flow. We talked about several of the most popular PowerShell commands used with Power Apps, and then we looked at working with Power Apps through the graphical user interface. Next up, we're going to go in and take a look at configuring and managing Microsoft Staff Hub.